Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has cast quite a spell upon the G7, and not just because she's hosting the summit here in Puglia in the far south of Italy. Prime Minister Meloni prefers to be called just Giorgia. We will stay formal, but that surely is such a telling first sign, isn't it? Why she is such a winsome presence, and of course, as we've seen, she's such a winning presence. Her Brothers of Italy party won the most votes in Italy in the just concluded EU elections, almost 29%. That's more than 4 times as many as in the last election in 2019. And that kind of show of strength at home makes such a difference to the way a leader is perceived within the country and abroad, as we all know. Giorgia Meloni was elected Prime Minister in 2022, and she has come a long way to that position now, from an impoverished upbringing through spells as a nanny. She worked as a waitress also at a nightclub, but essentially she has been political all along. She joined a far-right party at the age of 15. She was later elected city councillor in Rome. She had a spell as a journalist and was then elected to parliament. She became a minister in the Berlusconi government at the age of just 31. She founded the now winning Brothers of Italy party as recently relatively as 2012, and why as a woman she left sisters out of that name is a debate for another day. Meloni has said justifiably that she can now present Italy at the G7 with the strongest government of all. She does head a coalition government, but that is quite stable and is expected to stay stable. But that gives her now a firm footing at the G7, unlike many other European leaders. British Prime Minister Sunak is currently really waving goodbye. Biden faces a challenge no one can quite read. German Chancellor Olaf is shaken after a far-right win, and French President Macron's government is wobbling after the far-right win in France in the EU elections. Meloni is just about the only EU leader to have come out a winner in those elections. And she has won more than just the vote. Her politics is described as far-right, a labeling she rejects. Fascism in Italy, she says, is history. And she has kept her policies in government largely centrist and very shrewdly laid to rest fears of what a right-wing party may do once in government. She is winning support also from non-right voters. And she has played that right-wing card quite well. She has placed herself sufficiently to the right to keep command of that vote. She has also made immigration the #1 issue on the agenda at the G7, and the summit in fact will open with that. Not forgetting, of course, that Italy is at the front line of the receiving end of illegal migration, given where it is situated. So far, Meloni has held back from that earlier promise of a naval blockade in the Mediterranean to block illegal migrants. Since then, some diluted measures have not quite delivered. Europe has long been thrashing about for a unified policy across national differences to deal with migration, a policy that delivers, and that's a challenge Meloni has taken on. At stake for her here is not just a future for her in Italy and in Europe, but possibly a place in history, beyond the list of prime ministers who come and go. Of course, that may not be plain sailing. Her party has taken the lead, but the opposition Democratic Party in Italy has been gaining ground as well. It's been closing the gap with her party. Her winning way for now is no guarantee of winning forever, and she, of course, knows that. But right now, there's no doubt at all, Meloni is using her ability to bridge the right with the center to launch herself as a leader in Europe beyond Italy. She is being spoken of already as a bridge maker. Some even are speaking of her as kingmaker in Europe. She's taking a lead in solidifying European support for Ukraine in its war across those differences and past those delays in funding. And in doing that also, she's building transatlantic bridges, getting all the European countries to agree across the vast differences they have is not an easy ask, but it's one that she's taken on. Meloni is now looking well beyond Europe and the transatlantic. She visited India in March last year and then again for G20. She has spoken of Prime Minister Modi as the world's most loved leader. Relations between India and Italy have been upgraded now to what officials call a strategic partnership, and that will mean, we are told, more focus on defense and the Indo-Pacific. Also, more is expected together in energy and in science and technology. Trade between India and Italy is relatively low, about $15 billion a year, even if that makes it the fourth highest in Europe. Italy is only the 18th largest investor in India, with investments totaling currently about $3.5 billion. Indian investment in Italy is less than $500 million, and that is minuscule compared, say, to the Indian investment in Britain. The warmth between the two prime ministers has not quite spilled over yet to very much on the ground, but these are early days. Without doubt, though, in Meloni, India now has a very influential supporter in Europe, and that could deliver in days ahead.